So tonight's topic is agentic video, creative multiplier or slop generator, which is a big debate, right? Because some people who are anti-AI think that everything's slop, everything that you can produce with AI is slop. There's definitely, a reaction to AI that continues to go on. I think that's a short-term thing. I mean, certainly it's a generational thing as people get more used to it. But we're not going to talk so much about the fears of AI taking away jobs tonight as AI making things of poor quality. And we'll talk about the theory behind, first we'll talk about slop. And what is slop? And then we'll talk about what what agents are doing these days with video. And then we'll look at a particular tool that we can harness to use agentic video. So somewhat specific tonight. We won't be covering general topics here, although the tool can be used generally. And you'll see that it has a little bit of a different approach because it's agentic than other tools that are in the space. So creative multiplier or slop generator. So slop, digital content of low quality that is produced usually in quantity by means of artificial intelligence. That's the most recent definition, right? Because it's been soft mud or crap and stuff. Food waste is slop. Now it's unwanted AI content. We're using the word like that. But that seems to have taken over and caught on. So we've had plenty of things that would have been slop, right? Email spam, blogger spam. I'm very sorry about that. Auto-generated SEO, articles written for Google. These things have all existed before. And video is just because video couldn't be mass produced. By the AI until recently, but we've had a lot of slop and we've been deluged with spam and such. And now, recently clickbait headlines to get your attention, stock photo memes, and all those phrases. You won't believe what happened next to get your attention in there. I've seen so many times in the past year the word beloved. Everything's beloved now. There's a lot of love going on for all these beloved topics that have taken place. So yes, since 2022, when we've had Stable Diffusion come out, which was the first open source image generator, and DALL-E 2 from OpenAI that came out so long ago now, 4 years now, 3.5, and particularly Midjourney that brought it to the masses as a usable commercial program, better access than DALL-E 2 and better quality than Stable Diffusion. They still exist today, and how many guys use Midjourney? Yeah, it's still a powerful program, especially for more customized stuff. It has a lot of power. Some question about its long-term viability, just because things are, finally going to shake out at some point here. And can Midjourney hold on, given the commoditization of the whole technology? I think they still have some good stuff. And I don't use their video for any production, but it does some interesting stuff. Again, we're more focused generally on realism rather than stylization, although we are looking into animation as well at the moment. And Midjourney is better at stylized stuff than realistic stuff, in my opinion. Once ChatGPT came out, then we have, tech slop at scale. So much easier to write spam, much easier to do all of those things. And we start to get Runway and Pika came out at end of 2023, I think it was, the first commercial offerings to do AI video. And then you have, content farms using AI. I mean, there were already automated content farms, but now AI makes them so much smarter and able to adjust and bring more, quote, creative output to the thing to make it more realistic. We start to see that, the early Runway and Pika. Well, this is one of the questions, right? The early Runway and Pika could be used in interesting ways, but they're not very good. Does that make it slop or not? I don't think that makes it slop. I think it's more the intent and what you do with it, because there was certainly some interesting stuff with Runway and Pika, but not the realism that we have today. But that's not necessarily the way to judge it. So then we had Shrimp Jesus. So we'll pull that up in a minute when we started having all the weird images and beginning to animate those weird images, both for curiosity, for commercial purposes, and to get clicks, which maybe is a better driver of what slop is. Today, or last week, 2025, 21% of YouTube recommendations are AI generated. TikTok removed a whole bunch of synthetic videos, but there are still probably much more than that on TikTok. And the name started applying. Here's some of the greatest hits, and we'll get into some of the video here in a minute. Shrimp Jesus, the telltale six-fingered hands. Again, some people think if they've got six fingers, that makes it slop. But if it's a good story, is it slop? I don't know. The gibberish storefront, the infinite zooms, or all those things that were posting Reddit posts and am I the asshole posts and just putting some sort of video behind it. And, objects morphing within the screen and all that. So we've got both the quality axis of Slop and the implementation axis of Slop, because, you couldn't get six fingers was the best we could do a couple of years ago. Now that's fairly rare. And the uncanny valley portrait. That's something that really we only overcame in 2025, where VO was really the first one to produce decent faces. It's been followed by a couple of other generators that can do reasonable, that don't look uncanny anymore, but when I first started using VO3, I sent it to a colleague of mine who's not here tonight. And he said amazing and terrifying, because it really crossed the uncanny valley at that point. And said, wait, it can really do, realism now, which is something that we've always, that I've been particularly interested in. I didn't introduce myself. I'm Robert Wald. I've been involved in AI and video for a long time, although career-wise, I've mostly been what have I been? Architect of some sort, solutions architect in various roles. We used to call it integration architect, but whatever. But as AI has come to the fore, ever since the revolution in AI with the LLMs, that I've been able to bring together AI and video. And now Mike was here before. I guess some of you missed him. Now I'm running Gold Leader, which is part of MCM, which is the company we're in, 3 floors of this building. Which is a full video production company, which we're adding AI to. So we're finding ways to integrate AI and use it. I think Mike mentioned before that we're building a volume wall downstairs. That's an LED volume wall, which is essentially a giant TV that can be controlled and that you can shoot footage against. So that opens up a whole hybrid market for us that will let us do real actors with AI-generated backgrounds and maintain, parallax and look realistic. So that's quickly about me. Back to the presentation. Slop exists, and a lot of things that are generated for Slop purposes because of the money, right? Especially the ad-driven stuff and getting a piece of the YouTube ads and the TikTok ads, because you can make money doing that. But the algorithms reward Slop, and that's why people do it and continue to make Slop, right? Because so this seems like an underestimate. I did check it, but this is 278 of the top 15,000 channels only, because I think there's a lot more AI channels on YouTube because they haven't kicked them off yet, and probably won't. They may have more controls, but they're not going to kick them off. Across those channels, 221 million subscribers and 117 million in revenue. That's something that people want a piece of. So that's a definite, look at the cost to benefit. The cost is very low to produce Slop. And to produce things that are not Slop is a bit of an effort. Maybe less so these days, where things can produce 8 seconds really nicely, but still, to produce any sort of longer piece, any coherent piece, is a lot more effort of direction and art design and a lot of things that you have to coordinate and get right to make something look good. But Slop is easy and cheap. And yet it gets, someone's making $4.25 million doing this, and I'm not surprised. The algorithms reward engagement, not quality. So volume beats craft, unfortunately. And I don't know if we're going to escape from that trap or if we just have to get used to it. On the other hand, is it appropriate to use the word slop just for AI stuff when you consider some of the crap that Hollywood puts out? Because there's certainly commercial crap that's out there in the real film world, not with 6 fingers, at least not intentionally in most cases, but a lot of clones of old films. I'm thinking of, Marvel and superhero stuff. People like that. Is that slop? I wouldn't go quite slop, although there's certainly some of the stuff that's come out in the past couple of years from Disney has been slop. A lot of Star Wars slop. So how do we define, which I was touching on, what is slop? Let's look at a couple of them. So the axis here is technical quality. Because, six fingers, poor faces, nonsensical output. There's an axis there because, if you are artistic and we're doing things 2 years ago, there's plenty of interesting stuff, more curiosities, but I wouldn't qualify a well-written thing that was poorly implemented because of the tools that were available at the time as slop. The creator intent, if you're going for the money and you're just doing a mill to put stuff together, that's a creator intent. So if you're trying for something high end but you fail, that doesn't necessarily make it slop, although it may make it crap. So we got more adjectives to use there. And the audience experience. I know that when I see something sloppy or I see an AI doing something inappropriate, that I think, an AI shouldn't be doing that immediately offends me. And I'm sure, and I'm in the industry, so I'm sure it offends other people as well. How the audience actually experiences it, it when you see it. And what I was wondering was, why is a paid actor who has never used a product but is, promoting it acceptable as a spokesperson, but an AI avatar, who's not a real person but is written by a real person or an LLM, why is that slop, and the actor who's never touched the product and just getting paid, why are they judged differently? I don't know. We'll see. So there's an intersection of these things that make slop. Mindlessly generated, thrust upon someone who didn't ask for it, then we say slop. But that too is variable. We're probably not going to find, it's in the eye of the beholder, like beauty. Let's take a look at some slop first, just to get in the mood. Here's some old slop. Yep. So we got the infinite zoom, the game players, where you just talk over it, and they're all just for clicks. I kind of like that one. Jesus shrimp. I am pro Hypnotoad though. Having just produced an AI vegetable video a month or two ago, I'm not convinced that that's slop. I'm not going to show that one, but I think it came out pretty well and just was vegetable oriented. So how many of you guys think that that's slop? Yeah, I'm not convinced that that's slop. It's just an artist fooling around with the tools that they have and trying for some style variations. But take a look at this one, which isn't that dissimilar, but we can't call this one slop, I don't think. I kind of like this one. Count the fingers. Now you've got a lot of leeway with music videos, right? Because I mean, I don't think that that's slop. On the other hand, once you have this design down, you can produce a lot of variations and make it slop, right? If we see too many of these things, and sometimes you know, the first version of something that comes out is interesting, a little more than a curiosity, and then the 1,000 people who copy it, and you see that on TikTok a lot. You know, then that qualifies as slop. But I don't think this one's slop at all.
Yeah,
Just
this one, she posted. I follow her on LinkedIn. She does some really good stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
So has a definite aesthetic.
yeah. I mean, I'd say this is reasonably far over the border, but there are ones that are closer to the border, and it's often it's a matter of talent there.
Yeah. How old is this video?
I think this was recent.
She's
Early-
been doing this for at least most of 2025, but she's progressed. It used to be nothing but 8-second transitions. Now it's more. Yeah, things don't morph into each other.
Yeah, this is also just 3 weeks ago. The style is very similar, but it's not a clone. But you know, it's kind of like art. I worked with an artist once, and I really thought she should concentrate on eyes, and she told me she can't do eyes because another artist does eyes, so she couldn't copy that. But you can copy yourself, but you can see the stylistic, you know, once you have one, then you have a lot of variations of this thing, and it's a lot easier to produce this sort of thing. Still not slop, but you can start churning them out. So, more of a question.
This reminds me of sort of like, you know, a realistic painting got broken down into cubism and pieces and lines.
Yeah.
This is sort of like an imitation in a fashion of that.
Is the music Suno or is
I believe it is Suno. I know one of these is Suno. Let me see. Which is a whole other question. Yeah, it's Suno. And, you know, there are, I think, a couple of Suno pieces which are on the charts now, right? And have even risen to number one. At this point, no one's stopping them.
I prefer the AI.
Yeah. Well, AI gets more and more powerful. A friend of mine who's a music producer has licensed a whole library of songs, like 80,000 pieces, which now he can take and bring into AI and modify and put out over the radio because he has full rights to them. And he can use Suno, or there's a whole bunch of programs. Suno's been bought. I'm sure everyone knows that, so it'll probably be derezzed like Udio has been. But there's enough open source music generators out there that I don't know that it matters that much anymore. I don't know what Coca-Cola was thinking here. So I don't know if that's slop or just poor taste. Well, we're spending too much time on slop because I've got a whole theory and engineering part to go through. So I'm not going to talk about the creative stuff, even though I have some queued up. There's some really good stuff that's come out and we've looked at in the past. If I need a break, I'll show something there. But there's, not a lot of exceptional stuff, more recently. But even if you look at the recent runway film festivals and such, I'm not saying it's slop, but a lot of them are not that impressive. But there is impressive stuff that has come out that people, that people can appreciate.